10 players who made big money after the UFC. You could believe that receiving professional face punches and being choked to death for the amusement of others plays nicely. Conor McGregor earned $47 million in 2018 despite fighting just once that year. In the same time frame, his opponent in that fight, Khabib Nurmagomedov, who was 2-7 in the UFC, made $11.5 million. But the truth is rather different. At the beginning of their UFC careers, athletes signed contracts that pay them $10,000 to compete and another $10,000 to win. Even though it may seem like a fair wage for a single night's work, the costs of becoming a professional fighter mean that they actually make relatively little money. However, several athletes ended up earning more money after UFC. Let's take a look at these top 10 fighters. Number 1. Sean O'Connell. In 2017, he was only beginning to accept the fact that his MMA career was ended. In his own state of Utah, he had a profession he liked doing, talking sports on the radio. The woman he adored was engaged to him. Since leaving the UFC after 3 consecutive losses and entering what he would later refer to as pseudo-retirement, he hadn't punched for pay since the previous year. Then he began to hear whispers that the World Series of Fighting, a fighting promotion, was rebranding. It would be known as the Professional Fighters League, PFL, and it would begin 2018 with a regular season of events that would build to a tournament where the champion in each division would get a cool $1 million prize. He further asserted that he's capable of completing this. So, O'Connell did exactly what he told himself he would do. He won. After accepting the cash and giving up the championship, he rode out into the distance. However, he's certain of only one thing: he won't change his decision. He had a happy ever after professional ending, so he will now concentrate on the next chapter, even if he's aware that it won't always be simple. Number 2. Antonio Carlos Jr. Antonio Carlos Jr. joins the 2022 PFL season with a lot of enthusiasm after leaving the UFC. The seasoned fighter begins the new campaign having taken home the $1 million first place prize in light heavyweight title the year prior in 2021. Jr. won his first 3 matches in the PFL without losing a decision until rear-naked choking Martin Hamlet in the championship match back in October. It was a significant turning point in Jr.'s career as he overcame a 3-fight losing streak to win the title of a significant organization. But in addition to his athletic achievements, Jr. had a very successful year financially. Jr. said at the 2022 PFL One Media Day on Monday, "It was great. I didn't change much, just the numbers got a little bigger on the bank account." Jr. kept the $1 million reward given to the season's champions in addition to the regular fight fee he received for his 4 PFL contests in 2021. The Brazilian claims that after 1 year of competing for the PFL, his earnings from 7-year stint with the UFC were doubled. Number 3. Andrei Arlovski. One factor that contributed to Affliction's promotion was the fact that they attracted outstanding talent by paying them outrageous sums of money. Yet, this ultimately contributed to their downfall. Andrei Arlovski made much more money competing for Affliction than he is now being paid for destroying the UFC's extremely weak heavyweight class. The Pitbull earned almost $1 million from both of his fights in Affliction, but his contract in the UFC is $42K by $42K, which means he receives just $42K for showing up and gets doubled if he prevails. Even with the performance bonuses he has been receiving, $84 grand night doesn't sound that bad when compared to the millions you used to receive. Not to mention taxes, gym fees, coaches, administration, and the lack of high-paying sponsors. Number 4. Demetrius Johnson. Since his 2013 battle with John Dodson, Demetrius Johnson has begun to make 6 figures. Dodson received $102,000 for the competition. He received $26,000 for each appearance and victory, with an additional $50,000 in post-fight bonuses. For his subsequent fights against John Moraga, Joseph Benavides, Ali Bugatinov, Chris Carriaso, and Kyoji Horiguchi, he received payouts of $108,000, $225,000, $179,000, $183,000, and $237,000 respectively. DJ made $285,000 from his first bout. With Henry Cejudo, he received $40,000 in sponsorship money from Reebok, $50,000 in post-fight bonuses, and $60,000 in win bonuses. For the fight, Johnson received a base salary of $135,000, $390,000 in his subsequent battle with Tim Elliott. He received a $350,000 basic salary as well as a $40,000 sponsorship from Reebok. But the fight against Henry Cejudo in the rematch at UFC 227 earned him the biggest fight payday of his UFC career. Despite dropping the fight, Johnson still made $470,000. It contained a $380,000 base salary, a $40,000 fight week incentive, and a $50,000 post-fight bonus. Number 5. Rory McDonald. In his last 2 UFC fights, McDonald made by far the most money, earning $59,000 and a $40,000 Reebok bonus in a rematch against Robbie Lawler at UFC 189. McDonald won his final battle against Stephen Thompson for another $59,000 in addition to a $10,000 Reebok bonus. McDonald has landed 2 lucrative contracts with Bellator and, most recently, PFL since leaving the UFC in 2016. Under such promotions, McDonald has made more than $400,000 from each fight. When you compare it to his highest declared earnings from his UFC career, $400,000 is an astonishingly large return for a single night's labor. That doesn't even take into account sponsorship income, though he acknowledged that he purposefully took a blow there in order to chase more lucrative long-term arrangements for upcoming fights. Number 6. Eddie Alvarez. Eddie Alvarez claims that making the choice to quit the UFC and sign with one championship wasn't that difficult, not when the contract is a guaranteed 8-figure sum, according to him. The former lightweight champion for the UFC and Bellator claimed he and his management team visited the UFC in Las Vegas during the summer in an effort to re-sign with the organization. The UFC provided a package that came near to what he was looking for, but he wanted a day to consider it. Later, he came to the conclusion that it would be wise to consider the offers made by other MMA companies. Alvarez asserted that he has no regrets at all. Although actual earnings are yet undisclosed, he's unquestionably earning more than he did in the UFC. Number 7. Ronda Rousey. Although there is obviously a big difference between the two, Rousey has made it look so simple to switch things up and abandon one for the other. Who could forget CM Punk's disastrous performance in the Octagon? With a multi-deal contract with the WWE, Rousey's compensation has increased to $1.5 million, with an estimated $2.1 million in bonuses and merchandise sales, making her the second highest paid female superstar behind Becky Lynch. In her debut match for any MMA organization, Rousey earned just $8,000. Yet in her last match for the UFC, she earned more than $3 million. Rousey earned a good sum of $4.3 million over the course of a 6-year career in mixed martial arts, which is absolutely reasonable and leaves no room for complaint. Rousey earned $5 million in the WWE in less than 2 years, therefore it's safe to assume that the WWE plays significantly higher than the UFC. So who can blame Rousey for choosing to work for the WWE despite her extraordinary MMA skills? She has also acknowledged that receiving a decent paycheck and access to healthcare, especially when wounded, is a significant perk for anyone working with the WWE. She makes the WWE seem like a lot more appealing prospect. Number 8. Paige VanZant. One of the most well-known professional fighters today and former Ultimate Fighting Championship champion, Paige VanZant, has made an estimated $474,500 in her career. To increase her bank account, VanZant has also invented another moneymaker. She created an OnlyFans account that she only uses to share just the photos with paying admirers. 3.2 million Instagram followers, however, haven't stopped VanZant from asserting in the past that she makes more money from social media. I make considerably more money sitting at home sharing photographs on Instagram than I do fighting, she admitted in an open interview on Ariel Helvani's MMA show. VanZant started her own fan site in February, where users can pay for special content in addition to her lucrative contract with BKFC. The website has been very successful, according to VanZant. She earns more from subscription fees in a single month than she does from her contract with BKFC. According to Paige VanZant, 1 month's earnings from a fan site are greater than the sum of the BKFC and UFC contracts combined. That's fascinating now. Number 9. Anthony Pettis. The co-main event of PFL 5, which took place on July 25th, featured former UFC star Anthony Pettis, who earned the most money out of the previous 3 nights. Pettis received a whopping $750,000 for this co-main event fight against Stevie Ray, despite losing by submission. Rory McDonald, a former UFC championship candidate, received $500,000 for his defeat of Sadibu Sai. You might be astonished by the bout purses of some PFL stars when compared to the UFC champions, given that Anthony Pettis earned more money than his last bout than Francis Ngannou did, despite losing to Stevie Ray. According to MMA Junkie's article, in which they disclosed the salaries of every PFL competitor, Pettis received $750,000 for his defeat at the PFL 5 competition, Francis Ngannou, the current UFC heavyweight champion, reportedly earned $642,000 for defeating Cyril Gane by majority decision at the UFC 270. It goes without saying that the UFC must pay Francis Ngannou a stunning contract if they don't want to risk losing one of their top talents to a rival company. Bellator and the PFL will be watching Ngannou's contract situation and would like to see him not extend it. Number 10. Tyron Woodley. When Woodley competed for the UFC, his stated earnings varied based on the opponent and if a title was at stake. According to some, he earned $3 million to compete against Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. Some claim he received $350,000 in addition to $40,000 in sponsorship money for the Colby-Covington fight. Unfortunately, there isn't really a way to know because many commissions no longer disclose payment information and there's a lot of data on under-the-table or PPV purchases that we're just unaware of. However, Woodley did mention that his battle with Paul will bring in the greatest payday of his career. So, how does Tyron Woodley earn per day? To solve this math issue, we'll use the liberal $4 million estimate. He makes more than $10,000 each day if you split that by 365. If you believe that this sum of money is substantial, consider the salary of someone like Conor McGregor. This year, Forbes declared McGregor the highest paid athlete in the world, and they pegged his earnings at $180 million. Compared to McGregor, Woodley's $4 million is pennies on the dollar. The combatants are thus earning their love lives, but at a price that is also extraordinary. What do you think of these fighter earnings?